Hey everyone, Gil here at graymanprepping. On this episode of Your Prep for Today, I want to talk to you about being selfish. And some of you are going like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on here? Bear with me. All right, I myself am very selfish with my preps. Why are you doing these videos then if you're being selfish about prepping? I'm being selfish about prepping because I want to keep my preps, which means I want you to get prepped so you're not trying to take my preps from me. That's what I've been talking about for the last several weeks here. That's why your prep for days has been getting longer, and I've been talking about that near the end of it. You need to ensure your preps are safe by being selfish and getting everyone else to prep too. So you're being selfish to keep your preps by getting everyone else prepped so they have their own preps and they're not coming after yours. All right, so one of the ways you can do this, I did a whole video series on prepping for beginners, and I'll put the link to that up here at the end of the video at the very end. And I have one about prepping in private down here where you hide your preps and hide the fact that you're prepping and stuff so you can be selfish about your preps. But the other aspect of it is making sure you get everyone else prepped. Now, I'm hammering this several times, repeating it, because it takes 3 times for it to sink into the normal person. And some people who I want to address to, it's probably going to take 4 or 5 times for it to sink into them. But most of you, you're going to get it right off the bat. So, ways to do it where you're not being overbearing, where you're not, being dictatorial, where you're not sounding like a, one of those guys out there on the corner of a sign saying the earth ends today, or earth ends tomorrow, the end is here. No, you don't want to sound like a fanatic either. And one of the ways you can do it is whenever it comes up. And if someone starts, saying, "Oh, prepping, these guys are there," you go, wait a minute. Do you have car insurance? And most likely they're going to say, "Yeah." Do you have life insurance? Do you have health insurance? Well, so you are a prepper. And they go, "No, what do you mean?" Well, you're preparing for an accident with your car. So you're in case of an accident or something like that, you have insurance. You have medical insurance in case you get sick. You have medical insurance. Well, that's all real preppers are doing. They're prepping for emergencies, not the end of the world. Because if the world ends, what good is it going to do them? And you just kind of, work with them, do it in your own way. But that's the kind of stuff you want to get across is like, hey, you're already prepping for stuff. Do you have winter clothes? Why? Well, I don't want to get cold. Why? I don't want to get sick. Oh, so you're preparing for winter so you don't get sick. These are the ways you use to turn their logic around on and make them think like, oh, wow, but that's not, and I go, but that's what a doomsday prepper said. No, we're not talking doomsday prepper. We're not talking a fantasy show. We're talking real life. And then you ask them, how'd your grandparents do it? Or how did your great grandparents do it? Did they have a garden? Did they raise their own chickens? Did they, did they do canning? And so, you're going to get them thinking about it like, I don't know what my great grandparents did. Are your parents still alive? Ask them. Find out what your ancestors did. And you're going to find out that your ancestors had a garden. They had livestock. They preserved their own food, meats, fish, vegetables. They preserved food for the wintertime when they couldn't go out and grow in the garden. For times were lean, when there wasn't an abundance of food, they prepared for those times that came in a cycle every year to get prepared. And so that's one of the things you want to do by being selfish, is to get them prepared so they don't come after your stuff. Now, sometimes you can also be selfish about your preparations by building a community around you, a people that are doing the same thing. If you're in a suburban, you're in a housing tract and stuff, keep your eyes open to see if you can see any telltale signs of someone growing a garden. If you're growing a garden and they're growing a garden, talk to them. Say, yeah, I see you growing a garden. I got one going too. What are you planting? And stuff. And talk to them about, well, hey, I do really good on tomatoes, but I don't do too good on squash. How do you do the squash down here? And if they go, well, I'm great on squash, but my tomatoes are so-so. And it's like, tell you what, I'll grow more tomatoes, you grow more squash, and we'll swap. Build a community of bartering, of those that grow food like you do and are willing to trade. Now, in some cities, they have ordinances against chickens. Well, you can sometimes appeal that, say, hey, we want chickens. Chickens aren't noisy. It's the roosters that are noisy. We don't have to have roosters, but there are some breeds of roosters that don't crow. Can we get an exemption as an experiment under your guys' supervision to have chickens and see if the neighbors complain about it? If they don't, then you can amend your legislation here so that it says, and list certain breeds of chickens so that the roosters don't crow, or they can have chickens without roosters. And there's those ways, and you present it right. There are ways to get city councils and stuff to do things. Let's see what else here. I mean, to me, there's just so much I want to try to give you, but I don't want to bury you in information, which is the same way you don't want to bury someone you're talking to about information. Since you're already watching this, you're pretty much already prepping stuff, and you're ready to assimilate a bunch of stuff. But people that are new at it, you don't want to overwhelm them so they say, oh, I can't do that, and they turn their back on prepping. Remember, prepping is a marathon, not a sprint. It's not to see how fast you can get it done and how much you can get in that short amount of time. It's a little at a time, because as a person preps, they learn a little bit more. And as they learn more, they learn what they should and shouldn't prep. All right. So hopefully this is making sense to everybody, and hopefully you get a lot out of it, and hopefully you can be selfish enough to get everyone else prepped so they don't come and take your food and your supplies from your family and leave you out like this.